Good evening, everyone. My name is Greg Yowitz, and I have the honor of being chair of the board of directors of the St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum. And on behalf of the board and the staff, I'd like to welcome you here tonight. It's a privilege to gather with all of you tonight for this meaningful program on International Holocaust Remembrance Day. This evening is a testament to our shared commitment to honoring Holocaust survivors and ensuring their stories endure for generations to come. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank our incredible members, donors, and volunteers. Your support fuels everything that we do, from impactful educational programs and exhibitions to tonight's important gathering. You make it possible for this museum to serve as a beacon for Holocaust remembrance and education, not just in St. Louis, but far beyond. This evening's program is generously supported by our program presenter sponsors, Carol and Kenneth Adishek, our program leader sponsors, Pam and Ken Lester, Victoria Fraser and Steve Miller, and Northern Trust Bank, and our program advocates, Arco National Construction, Linda and Scott Malin, Erica Zalphelan and Jim Phelan, and our program supporters, Commerce Bank of St. Louis, Bob Denlow, Kim and Tim Eberlein, Nancy and Steve Kaiser, Chrissy and Michael Lacob, Leslie and Michael Litwack, Jennifer and Craig Rosenthal, Katie and Brian Westerly, and apparently my wife and I. And we came alphabetically last, so it worked out. We are grateful for our sponsors' generosity, which enables us to present such meaningful programming that amplifies the voices and legacies of Holocaust survivors and their descendants. Thank you all for being here tonight. It is now my pleasure to introduce our executive director, Myron Friedman, who will share more about tonight's special program.
Thank you, Greg. Good evening. Thank you all for joining us. What a wonderful sight it is to look out and see so many faces in our auditorium. Thank you for coming tonight. We commemorate tonight International Holocaust Remembrance Day, a day dedicated to honoring the memory of 6 million Jewish men, women, and children who perished during the Holocaust, as well as the millions of other victims of Nazi persecution. At the St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum, our mission goes beyond preserving history. It is about using the lessons of the Holocaust to inspire action, promote understanding, and reject hatred in all its forms. Tonight, we are reminded of the transformative power of storytelling. Through the voices of survivors and descendants, we continue to connect the past to the present, ensuring these lessons endure for generations to come. This evening's program is facilitated by descendants of Holocaust survivors, underscoring the profound and lasting impact of the survivor community. It is also a testament to the commitment of their families and all of us here to keep their stories alive. Their voices inspire us to reflect on the power of resilience and courage in the face of unimaginable adversity. To begin this evening, we are privileged to welcome violinist and Holocaust descendant David Bay. David's performance, accompanied by images of St. Louis survivor families, serves as a poignant tribute to those we honor today. I'm going to pause here for a second and just ask you, if you haven't silenced your phones, to go ahead and take a moment to do that. Thank you very much. Didn't want to forget. Since we have beautiful music and memories being shared tonight, it'd be nice to get through it without phone interruptions. Thank you. David's music reminds us of the beauty of the resilience and strength that emerged even in the darkest of times. So please join me in welcoming David Bay.
Thank you very much. It's a privilege for me to be here tonight, and also it's a special day for me because it's my grandmother's birthday, who is also a Holocaust survivor's daughter. And I'm honored to perform these next pieces for you all.
Thank you, David, for that incredibly beautiful and moving tribute. Your music reminds us of the incredible legacy and resilience and creativity that lives on in the survivor community and their families. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chrissy Lacob. I'm a board member of the St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum and a proud descendant of Holocaust survivors. My grandfather was among the names on Schindler's List, and my grandmother survived Auschwitz. Their stories of survival and liberation have shaped my life profoundly, reminding me of the strength of the human spirit and the responsibility we have to share these stories with future generations. As we reflect on liberation, It is important to remember that it was not just an end, but also a beginning, a moment when survivors faced the daunting challenge of rebuilding their lives in the aftermath of unimaginable loss. To honor that moment, I invite you now to watch this powerful historical footage which captures scenes of liberation and the profound resilience of those who emerged from the camps.
Liberated thousands of prisoners. In the camps, combat-hardened soldiers witnessed firsthand the brutality and inhumanity of the Nazi regime and its so-called policies of racial superiority. They found piles of unburied corpses and barracks filled with dead and dying prisoners. The small percentage of inmates who survived often required immediate assistance after months and years of maltreatment, starvation, and forced labor at the hands of the Nazis and their collaborators. U.S. Army General Dwight D. Eisenhower made a deliberate visit to the Ohrdruf concentration camp in order to witness personally the evidence of Nazi atrocities. He urged others to see the camps directly, lest the stories of Nazi brutality be forgotten or dismissed as merely propaganda. The weeks and months following liberation did not bring an immediate return to normal life. Survivors struggled to restore their health, regain their dignity, and rebuild lives disrupted and destroyed during the Holocaust.
Thank you for taking this moment to reflect with us. It is now my privilege to introduce tonight's featured speaker, Max Libman. Max is a fourth-generation descendant and a remarkable young man who has already dedicated his life to preserving Holocaust memory through storytelling. As a freshman at the University of Southern California and an intern at the USC Shoah Foundation, Max has contributed to efforts to educate and engage others about the Holocaust in innovative ways. At just 12 years old, Max wrote and produced Ein Stern, A Star, an award-winning film inspired by his great-grandmother's life under Nazi rule. He later created a documentary about her experiences, which has been viewed by over 10,000 people and has sparked meaningful conversations across generations. In addition to his creative work, Max is the founder of the CU International Film Festival, which empowers young filmmakers to tell stories that inspire change. He has also served on the Illinois Holocaust Museum Teen Leadership Board and contributed to initiatives here at the St. Louis Kaplan Feldman Holocaust Museum. Max's dedication to preserving Holocaust memory is extraordinary, and his work reminds us that the torch of remembrance continues to be carried forward by younger generations. Please join me in welcoming Max Libman.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. Tonight, I'm going to share the story of my great-grandmother, Ann Gershny, a story of unimaginable loss, profound courage, and enduring resilience. Her journey has deeply shaped my own journey, and tonight I'll also share how her legacy has become a part of my story and the role I've taken on as part of the fourth generation to carry it forward. But this isn't just a story of remembrance. It's also a call to action. When I was in 5th grade, I began to learn about the Holocaust, the millions of lives lost, the concentration camps, and the calculated effort to erase Jewish life. These were not just stories in history books. These felt deeply personal. That connection became even stronger when I discovered the story of my great-grandmother, Ann. Sure, I had always heard the stories of her funny sense of humor, her football playing with her grandchildren, her gourmet, huge school lunches for my mom, so big that it would feed the entire lunch table at school. But I hadn't heard about her bravery in escaping the Nazis, or about the unimaginable decision to leave behind her family and everything she knew in Poland. She had not talked about her experiences often. It was part of her past and something she wanted to keep in her past. But her past needed to be heard. There is a purpose to remember and an obligation to share. Anne was born on June 20th, 1910 in Tiktin, Poland. She had 5 sisters and 1 brother, and Anne was the youngest. Her mother, a widow, believed strongly in education and sent Anne to school. Anne learned to speak 5 languages. She liked school and spending time with her friends and family. Every Friday night, she would take her grandfather to the temple, a place that had been in the town since 1642. Her family lived in Tiktin their whole lives. It was their home. Tiktin was a smaller town and had a population of about 4,000, with about half being Jewish. Everyone in the town knew each other, and it was a tight-knit community. Life was good for Anne until the 1930s. During this time, Germany began to see a rise in anti-Semitism as the Nazi Party gained power. Hatred was growing on university campuses, with an increase in vandalisms and other acts of anti-Semitism spreading across Europe. There was a call to boycott Jewish businesses, with signs posted saying, "Do not buy from Jews." Even though the boycott did not last long, it was the start of a targeted campaign against the Jewish population. Anne felt the growing hatred firsthand when she attended a Nazi rally where Hitler spoke. She later spoke out against Hitler in public, something incredibly dangerous, especially for a young Jewish woman. She was spit on and called a dirty Jew. After this, her mother feared for Anne's safety and sought the help of an old family friend, a priest. He helped her secure an education visa for Anne to leave Poland and study in America. In 1938, Anne said her goodbyes, uncertain if she would see her friends and family again. She was leaving behind so much, not knowing if she would ever return to Poland. After learning this part of my great-grandmother's story, I felt overwhelmed. It is so much for anyone to grasp, especially a middle schooler. To help cope, I sat down and wrote. Drawing on my passion for film, I created a script inspired by Anne's story. I titled it A Star and submitted it to a local screenwriting competition. The script was selected to be made into a short film. After the film debuted to hundreds in my hometown, I felt compelled to continue sharing Anne's story. I developed a presentation about her life and began sharing both her story and my film with local schools and churches. By doing so, I connected with audiences and used her story as a powerful tool for education and understanding. As I shared Anne's story of her escape from Poland, I wanted to learn even more. There were so many unanswered questions. What happened after she came to America? What happened to her family that stayed? To learn more, I connected with second and third generation family members who shared with me the conversations they had with Anne about her experiences. I also had handwritten letters from Anne's family, translated from Yiddish to English through the Illinois Holocaust Museum to gain further insights. But perhaps the most impactful discovery was the video footage of Anne herself telling her story. This research helped me uncover what happened next, which I will share with you now. Anne took a boat from Europe to Ellis Island and then a train to Chicago to stay with her sister. Anne continued to stay connected with her mother and other sisters back in Tikhtin. They exchanged letters. The months went by and hardship fell over Tikhtin. From the letters, Anne learned that her sisters were removed from their teaching jobs and forced to build bridges for the Nazis. Times were getting much worse. Eventually, the letters stopped coming. Communication with her family was lost. She did not know if her family had stayed in Tikhtin or somehow escaped, and she tried searching for them, but found nothing. The years went by, and Anne met a young man named Sam David, and they soon married. They had a baby daughter and started a life in America. But in the back of her head, she still clung to the thought her family was somewhere out there, trying to find her too. Then, one day, a man stopped by Sam's work and said he was looking for Anne. Sam brought him home, and Anne could not believe her eyes. There, in her house, was standing an old friend of hers from Tikhtin, and this is what he told her. On Sunday, August 24th, 1941, the Nazis ordered all Tikhtin Jews to report the next morning to the town market for registration. The following day, the Jewish men, women, and children gathered in the square. It was crowded, and there was a tense feeling in the air. The German soldiers sorted the people and yelled orders. The Jews became concerned as 7 German trucks arrived and blocked off the square. The Nazis ordered the young and able to start marching out of town in columns of 4. As they walked, the Nazis forced them to sing. Their fears grew, and the sky was covered with clouds. The rain began to sprinkle as if the sky wanted to join in their sadness. They sang as they marched from the square to a local elementary school. Those that could not walk were driven to the school in German trucks. Every few minutes, a truck filled with Jews drove up to the school, and the Nazis said they were taking them to a nearby ghetto. However, there was no plan to take them to a ghetto. Rather, there was a short, straight path from the school to the forest. The Nazis led the Jews to the forest where the pits had been dug a few weeks before. Now the Jews would learn the true reason for these pits. They were forced to remove their clothes because the Nazis said their clothes were too valuable to destroy. As they stood there with no clothes on, they were lined up with their families and neighbors. The Nazis began to shoot them one by one as they dropped dead into the pit. Those that were not shot to death were thrown into the pit alive with no way of escaping. This mass murder continued on throughout the day, and by night, they had filled the whole pit with Jews. Some shot to death and thrown inside. Others left there in painful horror, and by night, buried alive. On this one day alone, about 1,400 Jews were murdered, with 700 more killed the next day. These were the events that led to the total collapse of the Jewish community in Tikteen. Only 17 Jews survived. One of these 17 survivors was Anne's friend, who had hid in a tree in the forest and witnessed this mass murder. Against all odds, he eventually found Anne in Chicago after all those years, and he shared with her the horrific sights he had witnessed. He also left her a book detailing the brutal deaths of her family and friends. It was more than Anne could handle. Overwhelmed, she sent him away, trying to push those painful memories aside. For many years, she refused to face them. But in time, Anne began to open up about the trauma she had carried for decades, sharing her story in a video interview with my aunt and uncle. Anne, fortunately, had escaped these horrors in Poland. Otherwise, she too would be in the pits beside her family. Anne survived. And because of that, I am alive today. Her survival is the reason I'm standing here now. Feeling the weight of this responsibility, I knew I had to preserve her story. So when I was in 8th grade, I created a documentary about her life. I incorporated her interviews into the film, blending her voice with mine, bridging generations to ensure her stories weren't just heard, but deeply felt. And now I will share that documentary with you.
Not so many years ago, something truly horrific happened. It was called the Holocaust. A total of 6 million Jews were killed. 1 million of those were children. So many innocent lives destroyed. So many stories to be heard. Here is the story of my great-grandmother, Anne Gershny. Anne was born in Tikteen, Poland. At that time, there were over 2,000 Jews living in Tikteen, and the local synagogue was built in 1642. During the Holocaust, the Nazis wiped out the Jewish population, including Anne's family.
We were a large family, 7 kids, and my father died before I was born.
What year were you born?
Shall I tell her? 1910. I had a very nice life in Poland, and I went in the nicest schools. I came to the United States, I speak 5 languages. I inquired in Poland, I inquired all over. I thought maybe they ran away to Israel, maybe they went to Russia, because all the people ran other places. I don't know how he found me because I changed my name. He came to the store and my husband brought him over. He says to me, Anne, I will tell you what happened to your family. He was sitting on a tree and he saw my mother, my sisters, their husbands, the kids. They made her dig the graves. In her grandchildren, her daughters, her son-in-laws. And then they told her to take off the clothes. They wouldn't even bury her in the clothes. But they took off the clothes because they needed the clothes. And my poor mother had to see everybody gone. She says, then I couldn't tell you the pain that I had when I was on the tree. But I want you to know what happened to your family, to your whole family. The kids, you saw La Shoah? I saw a woman running naked. I thought it's my mother. The movie La Shoah. And he said to me, that's what happened to your mother, to the grandchildren, to the whole family was wiped out.
They shot them? Or they shot
No.
them? What did they do?
Buried them alive. I said, I'm sorry you came to me. You brought me a lot of aggravation because I didn't know. You open wounds. I have a small baby and I have a husband and I can't give my life away too. I sit the whole night and I cry. I'll go to them, but they wouldn't come to me. And I'm sorry to this day I gave him the book and I told him not to come back because it was too painful. I couldn't take it.
Even though no Jews live in Tiktim, about 40,000 tourists a year come to see the restored synagogue. They walk the path to the forest and visit the memorials in honor of those murdered. We must never forget the dangers of hatred.
Thank you for watching. I believe that film has a unique power to spread education, foster empathy, and enhance understanding. It transcends boundaries, reaching people in ways that facts and statistics cannot, and helps us connect to the human side of history. I've had the privilege of sharing my film with over 10,000 people across schools, universities, and even to government officials. Throughout my middle school and high school years, I presented Ein's story and the importance of Holocaust education. I've spoken with students in grades 5th through 12th, as well as students on college campuses and with state legislators, religious leaders from diverse faiths and various organizations, helping to raise awareness, spark meaningful dialogue, and bring about action. Additionally, I've served on and moderated a panel at the Illinois Holocaust Museum in Skokie, where 4 generations were represented: first, second, third, and I was the 4th. We discussed the importance of preserving Holocaust stories and educating future generations. I continue this important work today as a freshman at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles. At USC, I'm studying the business of cinematic arts, where I'm learning how film can educate, inspire, and drive positive change. I'm also interning at the USC Shoah Foundation, an organization founded by Steven Spielberg to preserve survivor testimonies in order to educate and promote tolerance. As a Shoah intern, I help preserve Holocaust stories for future generations. Recently, I attended the Ambassadors of Humanities Gala in New York, where I sat next to Holocaust survivor Toby Levy. Her words resonated deeply with me. You are the bridge. Without you, the stories end. She encouraged me to stay dedicated, reminding me that silence is what allows history to repeat itself. Her words have stayed with me, and although I never met my great-grandmother, I feel these are the exact feelings that she would have shared with me. I am determined to continue this vital work of Holocaust education and carry on Ein's legacy as a member of the 4th generation. The legacy of survivors like Ein is only as strong as our commitment to remember, to educate, and to fight hate in all of its forms. As anti-Semitism continues to rise today, we must stay committed and proactive, recognizing the signs of history repeating itself, standing up against hatred, and ensuring that the lessons of the past are never forgotten. As the 4th generation, we carry not only their stories, but also their strength. We are the bridge between survivors and future generations, entrusted with keeping their memories alive and ensuring that their strength continues to inspire empathy and action. So on this Holocaust Remembrance Day, let's honor their stories by all working to a more compassionate and just world. Thank you.
Thank you, Max, and really thank you for that, for your passion, for your sharing your family story with us. I don't even know how else to say it, but thank you for that. As we conclude tonight's program, I invite my mother, Gloria Feldman Kaplan, and my uncle, David Kaplan, to join me in lighting the candle to honor all the survivors and their families. Charlotte Delbo, a Holocaust survivor and member of the French Resistance, wrote a powerful poem that captures the enduring weight of memory. It is my honor to close this evening with her words. This dot on the map. This black spot at the core of Europe, this red spot, this spot of fire, this spot of soot, this spot of blood, this spot of ashes, for millions, a nameless place. For all the countries of Europe, from all the points on the horizon, trains converged towards this nameless place, loaded with millions of humans, poured out there, unknowing of where, poured out with their lives, memories, small aches, huge astonishment, eyes questioning, bamboozled, under fire, burned, without knowing where they were. Today, people have known for several years, that this dot on the map is Auschwitz. This much they know. As for the rest, they think they know. Thank you all for being here tonight and for your commitment to remembrance and action. Let us leave tonight inspired to build a better world. Good evening, and thank you.